That was my foot. Okay, guys, when we got everybody up here, get in a place where you can see a little bit. I'll point out some design features for you here.
So did they build this?
This tower is built in the early 1900s by the old War Department. So the students from West Point can have a better view of the battlefield. There were originally 5 of these towers. This one is another one that's still full scale. If you look off there in the distance, where I'm pointing to my left, you see a couple of barns and a house in the middle. You look at the house, but then look straight up. You can see another hill in the distance. That's the Culp's Hill Tower. You can see way in the distance, which is about basically the same height as this one. Okay. Now here's the progress of the fighting. The first day's battlefield we can see a little bit of from here. It's a lot broader area than we can see, but if you go way off here to my left, you can see an open field. On the right-hand side of it, there's a large monument. That's the Peace Light, which was dedicated in 1938, 75th anniversary of the battle, and the last major reunion of Civil War soldiers. Average age of those veterans was 94 years old when they dedicated the Peace Light in 1938. So that area, which again is a bigger area than we can see from now, is where the first day's battle will take place. Confederates drive the Union 1st and 11th Corps at a total casualty rate of about 45%. Originally had 20,000 men to the town, to the high ground of Cemetery Hill. Now, Cemetery Hill, you can see that large American flag in the distance there? It's the tree line that you see to the right. You can make out a blue-green water tower. That's the tree line right there. Although keep in mind, Cemetery Hill would have been a virtually all hill at the time of the battle. Okay? So, Culp's Hill would be the barb of the Union Fisher line, where you see the other tower. The bend in the line is Cemetery Hill, and then the line will head south along what is known as Cemetery Ridge. Through where you see the monument that has the large obelisk, which is the U.S. Regulars Monument, the large dome monument, which is the Pennsylvania Memorial, and then it'll continue heading south towards that rocky hill you can see off in that direction. Okay, that would be the Little Round Top. We'll be up on that later. That, in effect, becomes the eye of the fishbowl. The taller hill that you see to the right of it is Big Round Top. Not much fighting on it because it was completely wooded. Little Round Top becomes more important in part because farmers the previous year who had no idea there was going to be a battle here were removed most of the trees from its western slope. Because they do that, artillery can be placed on it. So as I mentioned, as we're coming up on July 2nd, General Lee will strike the ends or the flanks of this 3-mile long Union battle line. General Longstreet will strike the Peach Orchard, which you can see fairly well, just on the other side of the Emmitsburg Road. The Devil's Den, which we can't see from here, Little Round Top, and also the wheat field. Richard Ewell's Corps, Confederate on the other side, will be striking East Cemetery Hill and Culp's Hill. So what Lee is trying to do is to put Cemetery Hill in a vice by attacking it from 2 different sides. Confederates gained some terrain on July 2nd, but the key terrain is still in Union hands. So again, on July 3rd, we will strike the Union center. If you look off to my left in this direction, you'll see a tree line. That's a part of Seminary Ridge. So coming out of that tree line, after a 2-hour-long artillery barrage, will come 12,500 Confederates. And what most of them are aiming for is that clump of trees that you see to the left of the obelisk monument. They're obviously going to be repulsed at great loss. Pickett loses half his division in less than an hour. The next day is July 4th. Somebody asked me about this earlier. Only the Union Army will be celebrating Independence Day. And that evening, we will begin his retreat back to Virginia. Now, over on this side here, you can see the historic Eisenhower Farm. Dwight Eisenhower was the 34th President of the United States, except he wouldn't have become President except for some other things that he did prior in his life, which was like what? Does anyone know? Scouts?
General.
Yeah. Yes, he would led the Allied invasion at D-Day and also the Supreme Commander in Europe. So that's the farm that he and his wife Mamie purchased in 1950, the only home they ever jointly owned together because he was transferred so often while he was in the Army. Okay? He named those larger pine trees that you see that sort of line the walkway according to the 50 states of the Union. So when he went out on his morning walk, he might got as far as Oklahoma today, or New York, or Tennessee, and she'd know how long this walk was on any given morning. We had a prize, the farm itself had been around 400 acres. He had a prize-winning head of Angus cattle, a herd, I should say, and he also had a full-time herdsman. This becomes sort of a retreat for him. This tower, by the way, while he's president and when he's there, the Secret Service commandeers this tower. Because you see, you had a high-powered rifle from here. You could take a pot shot, either him or some of the presidential guard. Questions that anyone might have, please feel free. And anything we've talked about or anything that you thought I should have talked about.
Where did they hike into the area? Where were they coming from? You said that Confederates came from east, west, and north, but kind of point out which passes they came through.
Okay, well, originally the Confederate Army crosses the Potomac River, okay, which is between Maryland and D.C. in the early part of June. And in the initial stages, although we can't see it from here, we can see a mountain range. But further to the south, the Confederate Army is behind the mountains, intending to conceal themselves from the prying eyes of Union cavalry. Ewell's Corps is in the vanguard of the Confederate approach here to Gettysburg, and those are the troops that are heading as far to the north as Harrisburg, which is 40 miles north of us, heading as far to the east as the Susquehanna River, getting as far as Wrightsville in York County. And also, then A.P. Hill and Longstreet's Corps are going to be out here to our west. The mountains that you see in the distance are about 8 miles from here. The small town of Cashtown is 8 miles away, and Chambersburg is 25 miles away. So eventually, that's where 2/3 of the Confederate Army will get here to Gettysburg from. The other third will be approaching us from the north and also from the east. The Union Army leaves Virginia last, so that's why they're coming up from the south. Does that fill in that gap for you?
Yeah, are they coming in through these gaps between the mountains, filtering up into position?
Of course, the gaps that we'd be talking about would be over here to your west, actually. The Fairfield and the Cashtown gaps are the gaps that they use.
Is it true that they were looking for shoes to finish with?
Henry Heath says that in his memoirs. The problem with that story, I consider it one of the myths of the battle, is that there were no shoe factories in Gettysburg. There were no large caches of shoes. And parts of Jubal Early's division came through here, Confederate, on June 26th. So if there had been large caches of shoes, they probably would have gotten them by then. My guess is that what Heath is trying to do in his memoirs is to try to cover up the fact that he sort of blundered into the battle. But it's been repeated in a lot of other books. You have secondary sources, people are just cutting and pasting things, and so that's one of the things that is still out there. We have to debunk to some degree. Anyone else? Okay, let's carefully go down the tower, use the handrail, and I'll meet you at that second artillery piece, the one that's over here on most of your left, okay?